So, in defense of Yang Cheng, I would like to start off by just saying that I've seen his name written as Yang Chen, but I'm like pretty sure that his name is Yang Cheng with like a G at the end. So I'm gonna be calling him Yang Cheng throughout this. If I am incorrect with source, can you guys please correct me? I apologize if this video is unbearable, but everywhere I actually see has him as Yang Cheng instead of Yang Chen. I only ever see people on TikTok call him Yang Chen. So I'm gonna trust my own ears and the eyes of the subtitles on the stuff that I watch. But anyways, when I watched episode 7, I felt a lot of emotions. And not a single one of those emotions was dislike of Yang Cheng, or like even slightly feeling as if he was a bad person, like in the slightest. I was shocked about Uncle Rock, for sure. I was devastated by everything that happened. I wish that him and Xiaqiang and Changchao got to live a happy life together. But I did not sit there and think, man, I hate Yang Cheng. Because apparently that was what a lot of people felt. Because the second I got onto TikTok after watching the episode, everything was just flooded with Yang Cheng hate. And I was like, that's odd. And so I made a video on TikTok talking about why I'm like baffled at this. And I got a lot of comments on that. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to refute one by one every single comment not every single comment, because a lot of them say the same things, but every single base idea that people have commented saying why they hate Yang Cheng. And I want to refute them. Obviously, you're allowed to have your own opinion on a character. You're allowed to think whatever of their morality. I just feel as though a lot of people act like they're morally superior to Yang Cheng, as if Yang Cheng is not a victim, as if Yang Cheng is not someone who deserves any kind of sympathy, when he very most certainly is. And I feel like his situation is very understandable, and I don't know. I'm just not getting how a lot of people act as if they're so much better than him. That's what really gets me, is the moral superiority complex. So the number one thing that I see, and the thing that I think would take longest to debunk, I guess, is he let Changchao die. I've seen plenty of people also say he killed Changchao, which is such an overstatement. But we're gonna go with he let Changchao die as what we're refuting. So the first part of this is people are talking about his jealousy, which you can't deny he was jealous of Changchao. Quite frankly, I was angry with Changchao knowing that Changchao was a wonderful person. I watched episode 5 and I was baffled by how angry someone who was so good could make me. I mean, I was jealous for Yang Cheng. You know, I understand that. And he's probably felt that kind of jealousy for far longer than, the 20 minutes that we got of it. And then, at the end of that episode, start of episode 6, him and Changchao become friends. Changchao starts helping him become the new Yisul, and they start, really bonding. And there are so many sweet moments between them that actually felt so, in my heart, like that it really, oh my gosh. And by the end of that episode, Changchao dies. I made the assumption that they were friends. The entirety of episode 6 takes place over the span of like 1 to 2 months. That's how my brain took it. If anyone has any actual real dates, please let me know. But 2 months is not a lot of time for years of jealousy to go away. Especially knowing that Changchao also has feelings for Xiaqiang. And especially knowing that Changchao is as absolutely perfect as he is. Oh my god, have you seen that man? And as someone who suffers from intrusive thoughts, last time I was talking about how I suffer from OCD. Intrusive thoughts are just an inherent part of OCD. So, intrusive thoughts happen to me all the time. And, some of the worst intrusive thoughts are the ones that I think about my friends. Because sometimes my friend will do something slightly irritating, and genuinely my brain will supply me with the meanest things that you could ever possibly say about a person. And I sit there and I'm like, why did I think that? That's so horrible and fucked up. And then, I try to wave it away. But, those split seconds of just horrible thoughts pop up a lot. And I'm not the only person this happens to. I know that this is something that a lot of people experience. Even people who don't have OCD experience intrusive thoughts. And they suck. I heard a statistic like many, many years ago that it was 1 in 50 people suffer from intrusive thoughts. I don't know if that's gone up or gone down. But, you know, this is a thing that happens to people. And it happened to Yang Cheng at the wrong time. He saw Shangchao there, a gun to Shangchao's head, and could he have gone fast enough to stop that from happening? Maybe. And I would like to emphasize maybe, not yes, maybe. But he hesitated. He had that thought, and then he went, that's fucked up, and then he went to help Shangchao. He hesitated. And quite frankly, it isn't even stated explicitly that jealousy is why he hesitated. Even if jealousy was the reason, though, it's difficult to get rid of years of jealousy that you've held in your heart. And it's, even if you haven't been jealous of someone for years and years and years, you still can think horrible things about someone and then regret thinking that immediately. The thoughts that come into your head, that, especially the ones that you brush away and don't wish to think, those don't define you. So Yang Cheng has a bad thought for a split second, and then after that he goes, nope, let's go help, and it's too late. Once again, though, it's not even clarified that he had the thought, oh, what if I just let Shangchao die here? It's not even clear that he had that thought. There could have been a multitude of reasons he hesitated. That guy had a gun. And Yang Cheng had nothing. Yang Cheng normally fights in his armor, costume, whatever you want to call it. And that has, metal on it, that has actual real protective pieces. And it allows him to be stronger. It allows him to utilize his electricity better. Without that, he's kind of just a maybe strong guy who doesn't have a lot of fighting experience. Like I said, my estimate for this time is like at most 2 months. And you don't get that good at fighting in 2 months. So it would have been reasonable if he was scared. And quite frankly, those are also reasons that, he could have not been able to save Shangchao. That guy had a gun, and he just had himself and his trust value. I don't know who wins that. And my further point for this is that he spends every day for the rest of, like literally the entirety of episode 3 is him regretting that moment of hesitation. If he, killed Shangchao out of jealousy or wanted Shangchao to die out of his own jealousy, he would not be so regretful. He would not be so hurt about everything that transpired that day. He wouldn't have, at Shangchao's funeral, gone up to Shangchao's dad and been like, hey, I need your help finding the person who killed this guy. I am going to make sure that that person suffers. This is Yang Cheng's way of repenting for that moment of hesitation. He feels responsible for killing Shangchao. And that is not the truth. What a character feels does not mean it's reality. Just because he feels like he was responsible for killing Shangchao does not make him responsible for killing Shangchao. You know who was responsible for killing Shangchao? Uncle Rock and the guy who shot him. But the guy who shot him himself was also a victim of Uncle Rock. But if we're placing the blame on anyone, it should be those two people way before you ever put the blame on Yang Cheng. So with that main point out of the way, I want to move on to number 2. He murdered an innocent person over a baseless accusation. A baseless assumption. The people who commented this were talking about how, he should have done proper research before declaring that the murderer was Yisol, and then, Yisol wouldn't have died, and, they could have, actually gotten to the bottom of things, or something similar. He should have been reasonable. And for starters, I just want to say grief is a thing. Grief is a real thing, and it makes you unreasonable. And yes, we do see Xia Qing, who is coping as healthily as she can, who is trying to talk Yang Chong out of the destructive mess that he's going into. But she is the singular person who's doing that. Every other person in this episode is telling him to go after Isol. For one, when he talks to Chang Chal's dad, he goes up to him and like is sorry about everything that happened. And Chang Chal's dad says to him, he says, "Don't be sorry, go get revenge. Do something about it." And that's what Yang Chong does. When he talks to Uncle Rock is like, "Yeah, I trust that it's Isol. Come on, that's Eshmeh." When he's talking to the Enlighter is talking about how there's some big evil behind it. It's not just the guy who shot Chang Chal. It's not just the kidnappers. It's this super secret third person. And they don't know that person's identity. But it's a reasonable assumption that Isol would be behind it. Especially because Yang Chong just went through this entire thing where he was being accused of staging that child's kidnapping. And you know who, was like the lead of defaming him? Isol's company. And Yang Chong doesn't know how little agency and autonomy heroes have. They are the face of their company, Like, Isol is like this big brand name, And he doesn't know that means that Isol isn't in charge. He doesn't know that Isol is being exploited. And that's really what this show is about. This show is showing the exploitation of young, hopeful people, specifically, and the ways in which it hurts. And we see that with literally every single hero so far, including Yang Chong. I don't know why we can accept that every other person is a victim, but when it comes to Yang Chong, he's just a bad person. He was exploited all the same as everyone else. But yeah, so he doesn't realize that Isol is not in charge of his company. He's not the one who's trying to defame Yang Chong. He doesn't realize that Isol just wants to retire. From his perspective, Isol is a guy who stopped helping people and comes out once every so often just to be like, "Hey, new stuff drop, spend money on me." And we as the viewer find out in episode 7 as well that the reason that he does that is just because that's what his company wants him to do, and he just wants to retire from all of it. And a lot of people in this, for one, I didn't put the pieces together. I was manipulated all the same into thinking that Isol was a horrible person who, upheld consumerism and just that whole general idea. I didn't realize that he wasn't an awful guy, I fully believed that he was behind everything until he said that he didn't care about his title. I understand that a lot of people might have gotten that earlier, but I don't appreciate how a lot of people who are talking about it and bringing it up act as if they are smarter or better for having figured that out earlier. I just hate this whole moral superiority. That's really what it is. That's why I hate all of these conversations so much. But yeah, anyways, I feel like it was a very easy road to go down, and Yang Chong was validated to go down this road by every person in his life other than Xia Qiang. And of those people that were validating him, it was the dead person's father, the guardian figure that has been basically grooming Yang Chong for who knows how long, since Yang Chong was a child. And the Enlighter didn't particularly, say Isol or anything, but, Yang Chong felt that was implied by the Enlighter, which I think was a reasonable thing to feel was implied. And the Enlighter is literally the epitome of truth. He spreads truth. So if Yang Chong's hearing this from 3 different adults in his life, 3 people who are older and wiser than him, why would he listen to Xia Qiang, the singular person who is telling him that he's coping unhealthily and that revenge won't help? He's never gone through something like this. How is he supposed to know that she's right? He's never been strong enough to actually do something. Because many years ago, Isol was the one who saved him, but now he wants to be the one who saves others. And he doesn't realize that he's got the wrong person. That's all that it is. And while I agree that this makes him morally complex and not a morally great person for immediately, being like, yeah, okay, I'm going to murder this person, it does not make him any worse than any other person who does anything for revenge. If you hate Yang Chong for killing Isol, I hope that you hate every single other character that has ever murdered someone for revenge. For Modal Zushi fans, I hope that you hate Wei Wuxian, because he killed the Wen clan, other than, the innocent people. But he killed the Wen clan, the people who killed the Jiang clan. If you are a fan of Six of Crows, I hope that you hate Kaz Brekker. I'm just sick of that double standard that people have with Yang Chong. You're allowed to feel bad for both Isol and Yang Chong at the same time. That's a fully possible thing. A lot of people who were commenting were talking about how, they just feel so bad for Isol that they don't like Yang Chong. And it's like, I get that. And you don't have to like Yang Chong. But don't act like Yang Chong is a horrible, terrible person because he did what he thought was getting revenge. The third thing that I've seen is he's spineless and he has no will of his own. So as far as being spineless goes, that person specifically was talking about how he never asked out Xiaqiang. He tried so many times, and every single time he tried, Chang Chao showed up. Other than that one time that he was going to after he won that competition, and then simply because he had low trust value, he lost it. So, he was going to. Quite frankly, we saw that Uncle Rock was the one who decided to not let Yang Chong win due to his trust value. So I wonder how many other things he's orchestrated throughout Yang Chong's life that caused Yang Chong to be as insecure as he is. There are years of their relationship that we never saw. So I just want everyone to consider that for a second. I was frustrated too, specifically in the scene that, she asked him to the concert and he was like, oh, I don't know that band. That scene, I actually had to pause the video because I was so upset. But I don't blame him for that. Have you never met someone with social anxiety? Have you never met someone who is insecure? It's just, I don't get it. I don't get how that can really make you hate a character as much as people hate Yang Chong. And as far as him having no will of his own, that's also simply wrong. Yes, he is in a way a puppet. But it's only because Uncle Rock is so able to meticulously use Yang Chong's will to do whatever he wants. Yang Chong's will is and always has been to help people. That whole thing about him saving the cat in the mud, that scene was in there for a reason. It's meant to contrast between Yang Chong then and Yang Chong now. It's meant to show that he has always been at his heart someone who wants to help people, who wants to spread good in the world. And literally, the way that he even becomes a hero is from helping a kid who got kidnapped. This guy who has 0 fight experience just used a bicycle to follow behind a literal car to save a kid. He wants to help however he can help. And yes, he's kind of reckless about it, but he just wants to save people, to help people, to put good into the world. And so, when his best friend dies, I say best friend, people have contradicted me about this, but the thing is, when it comes to options for who his best friends are, his best friend is either Xiaqiang, Shangchao, Xiaqiang's little brother, or Uncle Rock. So, Xiaqiang's his crush, so I don't count her. She's probably technically closer to him. Xiaqiang's brother, come on. That's just sad, if that's your best friend. Uncle Rock, that's also just sad if that's your best friend. That's the guy that raised you, Your parents are not your best friends. Your guardians are not your best friends. Sorry, gang. So Shang Chao is probably his best friend. Other than Xiaqiang, if you count her. But He just watched his best friend die. And he, for a hot second, has believed that Isol has become corrupt and different from the hero that he once thought that Isol was. He thinks that he is doing something good for the world by killing Isol. He thinks that he is helping Shang-Cha's father have peace. He thinks that he is helping all people who cared about Shang-Cha have peace. And he is making up for his own mistakes in, hesitating. Because he blames himself so much for that. It's such a culmination of things that causes him to kill Isol, and it was so meticulously planned out by Uncle Rock. I don't see how you can see all of that and go, he has no will of his own. He just does whatever Uncle Rock tells him to do. No, he does what he thinks is best for people, and Uncle Rock knows that Yang Cheng does what he thinks is best for people. Yang Cheng is good-intentioned. I'm not going to call him a good person. I don't know if Yang Cheng defenders are going to stand with me on this take, but I don't think that he's a good person. I think he's pretty complex. But I think that he's no worse than the average human. He is good-intentioned and makes a mistake that exacerbates into giant problems because he is in the wrong hands of people. Because he's being exploited. Because he's a victim. And I want this to lead into my next point of, he killed Yuexiang. Did we forget that he killed Yuexiang? No, we did not. Hi, I remember. We have no clue why he killed Yuexiang. People act like he just killed Yuexiang because Uncle Rock said, hey, go kill Yuexiang. We don't know that that's what happened. We don't know why he killed Yuexiang. Any infinite amount of things could have happened between episode 7 and episode 4. Yes, he shot Yuexiang. Can we think about what might be the reason why? I have no clue. Some people are saying, like, oh, we know exactly why, but no one's actually explained to me that reason. So if someone has that reason and can explain it, then please let me know. But Uncle Rock could have done any amount of manipulation to get him to kill Yuexiang, to have a reason to kill Yuexiang. And I don't know what he was told. I don't know how it was gone about. And, even though we know that Yuexiang was innocent, just as we knew that Isol was innocent, and both of them, I agree, were victims, I don't think that Yang Cheng is the number one person to blame in this situation. I think that if you want to hate a person for the death of Isol or the death of Yuexiang, Uncle Rock is literally right there. I don't know why we want to push all this blame onto Yang Cheng, who is a pawn in a game. The next point that I've seen is that he piggybacked off of Isol's identity. For one, I want to say I did not see a single person complain about this in episode 1 or 2. I did not see a single person be like, that kind of sucks that he is stealing Isol's entire brand. Even though that was like the entire plot of episode 2 was talking about like the stealing of Isol's brand. Nope. Not a single person did I see complain about that. It only became an issue because people started hating him for letting Shang-Cha die and killing Isol. But I digress. Let's ignore that. If you are truly upset about the fact that he piggybacked off of Isol's identity, I want to present you with one main thing, and that's that he never wanted to become a hero. He just wanted to get by in life. He was someone who had no friends, no family. He had Uncle Rock, but that's it. And, he kind of had Xiaqiang for a little bit. He never wanted to become a hero. He saw a child that was put in a bad situation, and he wanted to save that child. He didn't intend for the video of him saving that child to go viral. It was Shang-Cha who went, hey, this went viral. Let's actually let's work on this. Let's do this. Let's make you into this big hero. And Yang Cheng agrees because, he loves Isol, and he wants an opportunity to meet his idol. At this point, at least. And so he goes for it. He doesn't refute it, which you can think whatever of that, you know? But if you hate Yang Chong for piggybacking off of Isol's identity, you should also hate Shang Chong and Xia Qiang, two people who kept pushing him to do that. I suppose Shang Chong more than Xia Qiang. I really don't recall Xia Qiang doing anything other than just being generally supportive of Yang Chong's career as a hero. But if you hate Yang Chong for it, you have to hate Shang Chong for it as well. That's my point on that. The last thing that I want to talk about is people were talking about how he put blind trust into Uncle Rock. No. Him and Uncle Rock's relationship is a lot deeper than we, the audience, know. We haven't seen most of their relationship. We don't know at what age they met, at what age Uncle Rock took him in, at what age, you know, we don't know much about their relationship outside of, you know, the small bits and pieces of Uncle Rock having been very supportive of Yang Chong and presumably being one of the only people in Yang Chong's life. Yang Chong was so definitely groomed, and quite frankly, if you blame him for blindly trusting Uncle Rock, I don't like you. That is such a victim-blaming mentality to have. Because it's not that Yang Chong blindly trusted someone. It's that an adult took advantage of an orphan, a child who had no parents, who watched his parents die, quite frankly, and decided, yeah, let's make that guy a hero. Let's exploit this guy and cause him to kill an innocent person, and, you know, we're gonna give him the worst insecurity ever. Yeah. Because I want power and money, probably. Like, and even perhaps not money or power. He wants more money and more power than he already had. We already know that he is in Isol's company, you know? We already know that, you know, because he was one of the judges for the 34th anniversary competition. He was like the CEO guy, you know, who wears fancy suits and looks kind of really attractive, if we're being so honest. So sorry, guys. I only speak truth. Why are we blaming the child who got groomed and exploited more than the adult who groomed and exploited that child? You can't call it blind trust when someone is trusting the person that has raised them, that has helped them for many years. Genuinely, other than people who got it spoiled by subtitles, because I heard that happened to some people, I don't see where the real understanding that Uncle Rock was the bad guy could possibly come from. I don't see how you could possibly see that until episode 7. And certainly Yang Chong doesn't see that. Why would you doubt the person that you've been so close to, who has taken care of you for so many years? That's not going to be his immediate instinct, is especially following the death of his best friend. He's not going to be like, wow, let's think harder about what Uncle Rock is saying to me right now. Maybe this isn't a healthy way to cope. People don't think that when they're this deep into grieving. And if you do, then good for you. But really, the average person doesn't. The average person makes horrible mistakes when they're grieving. The average person is kind of an asshole when they're grieving. So, Yang Chong directing all of his anger, resentment, regret into finding the person who killed Shang Chong is, like, at least a better coping mechanism than, you know, a lot of people I've known in real life, you know? I don't particularly support revenge, but especially in stories where heroes and villains exist, and you know, death and murder is, like, kind of, like, a big thing. You know, you kill the villains, and that's meant to be a positive thing. I can't blame Yang Chong for killing someone who he thought was horrible enough to kidnap a child and then proceed to kill his best friend. In a world where heroes kill villains, I can't blame Yang Cheng for killing someone he thought was a horrible, terrible villain. He had to experience so much pain either way doing that, because Isol was the guy who saved him when he was young. Do you know how much emotional torment that had to be on Yang Cheng? Because it'd probably be a lot. But when the evidence was in front of him like that, that's what made sense. And a lot can happen in, like, at least a decade, you know? Isol could have changed. He could have become corrupt, for all Yang Cheng knew. And so instead of being able to meet his idol and, you know, express his passion and care, he instead had to kill him. Because that's what he thought was right. He has a strong sense of justice. It's just poorly directed. And once again, I don't think Yang Cheng's a perfect person. I don't think he's even considered morally good. But I think that he is in this stage of moral grayness, particularly towards the lighter end, quite frankly, because of how well-intentioned he is, and how much of a victim he is. Just like how Isol and Yeotseong and every other hero you see. Anyways, I've gotten way too heated over this. I've gotten in way too many arguments over this. I have considered blocking way too many people over this. But I do really love to hear what people have to say. And I want to have discussions in the comments. And if there are reasons that you hate Yang Cheng other than the ones that I have mentioned, I would love to hear them. I enjoy having these kinds of discussions as long as it's in a respectful manner. Like I said, the real reason I don't like people who hate Yang Cheng is because most of them act like they have this moral superiority. And it comes off as a lack of empathy. And genuinely, I cannot get along with people who lack empathy. It's just, I feel so much for so many people all the time. And, you know, there are even characters that I don't empathize with, but Yang Cheng simply cannot be one of them. Yang Cheng is simply someone who has gone through so much that did what he thought was right and nothing else. And the fact that he's being faulted for that, to the extent that he is, like, not even faulted, bashed, like, absolutely hated for that, is just pissing me off. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and if you, for some reason, haven't watched To Be Hero X and got all of that spoiled for you, then I'm so sorry, because that was the plot twist of my life. But also, you know, go watch it. It's still amazing, even if you know the plot twist. I've rewatched it. I've already rewatched it, and it's only the Tuesday after the episode 7 came out, so yikes. But yeah, if you like this video, then please let me know what else you want me to talk about, if you want to see more from me. And yeah, I guess that's it for now. Peace.